Hello. Okay, so this video is the continuation and what I thought of, ITEC itself and what it stands for, and a bit about, them explaining it themselves. So I hope you enjoy it and continue watching.
UAV room, unmanned aerial vehicle. It is exactly what it says. These vehicles are flown without human interaction. They are flown completely autonomous, meaning we can take a package and we can deliver a package only by using a smartphone to program the plane where to go, when to drop, and where to return to. Not too bad, right? Now here's the reason why. Because the big question is always, well, why do you need this? A partner in Ecuador called us and said that his wife had been bitten by a snake. She had been bitten by a snake at dusk in the Amazon rainforest. Planes cannot fly. It is illegal to fly at night in the jungles of Ecuador. How'd she do?
Chris, man, I don't know why I need to come in here.
No, you need to.
Chris,
Come on.
You're the guy.
I'm happy to do it, but come on in.
Oh, just
So,
Welcome.
So I'll introduce Zach. So the lady, she was bitten by a snake. How did she do? She can't get medical supplies. How did she do?
Good.
She died. And she died because they couldn't get medical supplies to her in time. So that gives that local indigenous person a need for a delivery mechanism into the jungles at night. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's where the needs are more. But this is Zach. Zach is he's the leader. He's the head of our Mission Aviation Department, Mission Transportation Department. Also a good friend, but a very...
So this is our believer unit. Here, Chris, I'm going to pass it to you. Yep. I'm going to walk over there so everybody can see it.
Passed it to me, so I'd be responsible for breaking it. That was real.
So this is actually a fully autonomous vehicle. You guys have heard of, anybody heard of Zipline?
Yeah.
The Mark Rober video, like everybody knows Mark Rober's.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is on a much smaller scale, and really our goal is to make it affordable for people to use. So this is a fully autonomous vehicle. You pre-program where you want it to fly, where you want it to drop the package, and then how to return home. So right now this will fly up to 35 miles away and back. Goes about 43 miles per hour and carries a 1 kilogram payload. Does anybody know what that is in pounds? 2 what? I heard 2.
That's a
2.6.
2.2.
Yes, thank you. 2.2. You guys are old enough to know this stuff.
Yeah.
So 2.2 pounds. So once it's over its target, there's a servo here. I don't know if y'all can see the servo there. We designed this mechanism here. We 3D printed it, and the servo triggers and drops the package over the site. So when the box falls away. Okay, so we did a lot of the engineering here in-house. Well, actually, all of it. This airframe, though, is from a manufacturer. So we didn't design the airframe. We just heavily modified it. Our engineering team came up with this fairing, vacuum molded the fairing. So the drop box and all of that we designed here. So the wing here can carry a 3/4 pound package. We're estimating up to 60 miles away and back. So it can go quite far. So big. So this is just one of the ways that we're meeting transportation needs. Our goal is to actually equip people with this. So I'm not going out and actually setting up camp and flying it for an organization. My goal is to train people so that they can use this technology. So another way we could meet a transportation need is potentially doing flight training. So we have a 172 outside, Cessna 172 trainer aircraft. We hope to use that for flight training for preacher pilots and or indigenous Christ followers. So. Any thoughts or questions, you guys? Yep.
How high can these planes go before, like, is it, like, how high elevation wise can it go?
Yeah, well, you know, you just have to know the operating conditions and
Right.
what the mission is. So let's say somebody lived in a mountain range, right, and they
Mhm.
wanted to use this. They could use this, we just would be putting different propellers on it.
Okay.
But I've actually seen this exact unit fly over the top of the Swiss Alps. So it was like 15,000 feet.
Wow.
So there's a group called Black Sheep TBS. And so what they do is they do kind of first person viewer flying. They do a lot of that stuff, so you can sit down in your chair and actually fly your plane. So from basically Oculus goggles. So it's pretty cool. FPV. But anyways, they did a flight to where they dropped, I think, a piece of mail in one of these from one village to the other village, and it flew over mountain ranges to get there. I mean, I was like, whoa, okay, let's think and do that. It's pretty impressive stuff. Anybody else?
So are every single one of these, I mean,
No, these are just kind of for fun. We mess around and fly these just to keep our skills up. So we'll have a partner come here. They'll come in-house. We'll do about a 2-week long training. If they've never flown an RC plane, we get them on an RC flight simulator, do it on the computer right here on the TV, kind of teach them how to fly. We usually have them fly something really simple first instead of the $2,300 unit, and they learn how to fly that first, and then they'll go to this. Although we can put this thing on training wheels basically. It has some modes that are just like super easy to fly. So.
But the RC planes, that it's like all the same principle, even if you scale it up to like a full size.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, aerodynamics of flights, all the same. Yep. Anybody else?
I got a question.
Yeah.
They keep talking about Amazon gonna deliver packages right to our yard from some 4 little propeller drone.
Yeah.
Is there some point where you guys would switch to some big new technology, or you guys?
Well, it just depends on it depends on the vehicle and the mission, right? I mean, that's all the application is. What is the mission it's to fulfill and its use case? And so there are actually people that put booms on this airframe and it vertically takes off and then flies, but it's not going to go very far because it uses a lot more energy to take off and land, right? Actually, we have a group right next door in the hangar next door. They're creating a vertical takeoff and landing vehicle that will carry 600 pounds, several hundred miles. Okay, so there's other groups that we've been talking to and building relationships with that have similar vehicles. Actually, one in Lowell, Michigan. You guys know where Lowell is?
yeah.
It's called Orbit Aero. Okay, so they're actually looking to use their vehicle in missions that have a 500-pound payload and up to 1,200-mile range. So, so kind of the way I look at it, we're here to collaborate. We're not like the end-all, be-it-all when it comes to knowing all the technology. We have a lot of friends. If we don't know something, we'll use them, or refer people to them if we don't have a vehicle that works. We're really pushing UAS forward in missions where a lot of groups aren't. Actually, frankly, I haven't met another organization doing it. So if you guys know of one, tell me. It'd be great. But so far I haven't met another group doing it in the Christian mission community. So.
And I think the tag team with Zach, just to kind of go back to what we were talking about in there too, is to understand how we accomplish the mission. Zach is a brilliant guy, but his job is not to sit in this room and just dream up, man, how can we make this plane cooler? How can we, make this plane better? His job is to listen to the indigenous Christ follower. They reach out to us and they say, this is the need that we need to meet. And if he doesn't have a tool that meets that need, then he begins to dream about a tool that can meet that need. But it's not, we don't develop the technology and then go find a need. The need reaches out to us, and then we develop the technology to meet that need. And the methodology there is very simple. We're here in a bubble in Denellen, Florida. The last thing that the indigenous people of South Africa or anywhere in the world, the last thing they need is for an American to come to them and tell them what they need. They need to tell us what they need. And once they do that, then he begins to develop that tool, that training system to meet it.
I think that's really important for any type of missions, right? That we're not going in and we're going, hey, I have a great idea and you're going to love it, right? and so it's really hearing what the people need. Now, I'll be very candid with you. This program was that here at ITEC. This was developed. We did have some people use it. A time though, it was not used, in anywhere in the world. And since I've been here and really praying hard, God's opened up the door potentially in Colombia for this to be used. So, thankfully, we came up with a design and a use case. So it's actually the Believer's designed to carry an IV bag. And actually, so this is kind of our little show piece. So it'll carry an IV bag and all of its administering supplies. So that was what it was designed around. And we see potentially someone using it. But again, candidly, this was kind of thought of a little backwards. We're really wanting to change that to where when we meet people, we say, what's your need? How can we formulate a vehicle to fit the need? Or, maybe it's calling our friends because they have the right vehicle, right? So,
I'll give you a real life example of what he's talking about, where the need is developed by the sending church rather than the receiving church. In one of the local villages there in South Africa, a neighboring village to us, I got asked by a church to come over there and follow up on a work that they had done. They had built a soup kitchen on the side of a church. Now, a soup kitchen is a wonderful initiative, right? Yeah? People can come there, they can eat, and in a place of 95% poverty, eating is pretty attractive, right? So this church from America goes there and they build this soup kitchen on the outside of this church, and that American church called me and said, hey, we're going to be in Renendal, which is just outside of the city we were in. Would you mind following up with these people after we leave? I said, no worries. So I started going there every single Wednesday night, driving 30 minutes every Wednesday night to do a Bible study at this church. I did that Bible study for 18 months in that area, Renendal. The refrigerator was never plugged in. The range was never hooked up to electric. They call it a braai stand, or the grill, outdoor brick oven, never once used. The only time that kitchen was used was when I brought peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every Wednesday night and just gave them to the people that showed up to the Bible study. And I asked the pastor, why man, this is probably a $50,000 or $60,000 kitchen. Why is this kitchen not being used? You know what his response was? We never even asked for the kitchen. So a church goes halfway around the world, spends $50,000 or $60,000 on the kitchen itself. That doesn't include probably $2,000 per person in flights. There were about 10 or 12 people on that flight. So $20,000 to $24,000 in flights. $40,000 to $50,000, maybe $60,000 for the kitchen itself. By the end of that, you're in the $100,000 range for a kitchen that never got used. Never got used. Because the church, the indigenous church, didn't even ask for it. So who provides the need? The receiver. The receiver should always initiate the need. If you can't meet that need, then don't go. Send someone else who can meet that need. But don't just come up with your own ideas of needs. Cool? Y'all got any more questions for Zach? We've got a wealth of knowledge here, so don't be afraid to ask.
What is the company in Lowell?
It's called Orb. Yeah, Orb Arrow. ORB. Yep.
What if you do come up with an idea? Why don't you just put it in a file and just wait until the need does come up and just don't?
Yeah. I mean, there's always an idea. I've had lots of ideas, and other people come across and have ideas. So I mean, it's. I think it's good to be able to do some R&D on certain things that you see could be a use case, but at the same time, a lot of money and time can be spent in a direction that really never goes anywhere if you don't do your homework first. And that's just part of the homework that we try to do here and that we're really wanting to do now. And I think it's good for any organization, right, to really go step back. Okay, who is this really for? Is it really something they want? And we do something called design thinking here, okay? And what design thinking is to say, hey, I got this really great idea. Now I'm going to pass it off to people who aren't actually in my field of work. See what they think about it. You know, might have a doctor look at it. I might have someone who's, you know, knows orthopedics or whatever. You know, if it's a medical type of thing, and maybe I'm a very different type of doctor. I want to get all of these different fields of view so that you know what a presupposition is? You guys know what that is? You presuppose. Does that make sense? Okay, you presuppose, oh, this is going to function like this. People are going to use it like this. But really when it comes down to it, you're in your own little bubble, in your mind, and you're not thinking, how are other people actually going to react to it? What is this gentleman's opinion of this? You know, does he really see this meeting his need? Maybe he wanted it to carry something else, you know? It needs to be a different shape. Or maybe someone wants to drop audio Bibles, which I've had people come to me and say, hey, we want to be able to drop audio Bibles, but multiple audio Bibles in different locations. How do you do that? Well, we can outfit this thing to do that, right? So it's always better if you have an idea to vet it. And it's okay, your idea becomes your baby at some point, right? You don't want anybody to call your baby ugly, right? Nobody? Once you have kids, you're like, you're the most beautiful baby in the world, right? No, can't call my baby ugly. But, you know, sometimes your babies are ugly. It's true. It's good to have other people, you know, help you through the process. So it's kind of the idea. So.
Okay, so that was a bit of them explaining a bit about the company and what they do. I'll go a bit more into detail. Now, what I thought about ITEC was, it it's a really cool company. Now, if you watch or read End of the Spear, this organization was made by, by the people, well, the son of that person who was in End of the Spear. So Steve Saint made the company, and now their main focus is on trying to train other people to train or to teach things. So let me do it this way. The common analogy that I hear a lot of times when they're saying this is fish. If this is like in a country or when you fish, that's your food supply. If you give 100 fish to, let's say, 10 people, it means 10 person of fish. Once they eat that 10 fish each, maybe 3 days, they'll go hungry again. That's all they get, 10 fish per person, But if you teach them how to fish, that will, that then they can fish some more and fish for the rest of the lifetime. And how much fish do they get? They get a lifetime full. They never go hungry. They get as much fish as they need because they can go fishing for it. But if you just fish for them and give them fish, they don't know how to. And then after they run out, they run out. That's what they do. So they first of all, they try to teach people how to do it. ITEC itself does 7 parts of teaching. They got dentist, they got medical, they got ophthalmology, so your eye, then they got farming and engineering and filming. That was so they teach those things, and while they're doing it, they can also teach people about God and stuff. So how they do it is, so they help people, and yet they can do it. And sometimes there is a thing, they won't be allowed to even teach. Be able to teach them about God. Normally, there's a story that he shared. I didn't record, but I'm going to tell it to you here. There's this guy that was kicked out of a village for preaching. It is like a Muslim village. And he was kicked out, and they said, if you came back again, we're going to kill you. So he left, and then ITEC, someone from ITEC, taught him how to do a skill and taught him how to do, teach others and stuff. So when they do it, so they usually do like a 6-day course to teach people about it each time they come. So they got like a special course of how they can do it easily, so they can help a lot of people. So they taught him, and then he went back to the village and said, I have this skill, I know you need it. So they didn't kill him. In fact, they let him in and let him do it, and through that, he was able to teach a lot of people from it. And a lot of them came to Christ. That is a really cool story. And so, when you're trying to teach people how to do it, that other stuff, that they're actually going to, let you in a bit so, you can do it. There's this person that was a softball coach and wasn't sure how she was going to do it, help out there because she wanted to do it, but softball isn't something that you'd normally think about. But now she's the country's softball coach person. I don't know the role, and now secretly she is preaching, and they don't know it, but the people who hired her, at least, the people that would kick her out. Oops, sorry for the vibration. So those are some really cool stories, and that's how ITEC would work, is they teach people how to do it so they can do their own stuff, and the message can still be preached even when they're not there. That's their main goal, and that is really cool. we're going to be learning more about ITEC tomorrow, which I will tell you about then. That is the last day for ITEC. So tomorrow for me is Wednesday. The next day, we are going to Wycliffe, possibly. It's not definite, but we are possibly going to Wycliffe. And then we are going to the beach, which you probably saw in the last video. So, nothing on Friday, but I will record tomorrow, and possibly, if we do go to Wycliffe, something then. I hope you enjoyed this half, and comment this half of what you thought, and this is their mission. I also managed to see, if you watch the movie End of the Spear, they have the exact airplane that was flown in that movie. And also the one that got destroyed. They got both of them, like pictures on there. So the top one is the one for the one that they destroy, the one at the bucket hanging and stuff. You might not be able to see it. And then the bottom one that is on the ground is the one they actually flew. And actually, Steve Saint, the guy who started ITEC, is that one that actually flew in the movie. And it was his dad that was killed in the Phi Missionary, when they died. It was his dad. And as of right now, his son is the right now CEO. So, that is cool. Now, I'm going to end this half. Enjoy the next half. Comment what you've been thinking of this. It's really cool. So, yeah. Next day, tomorrow. Goodbye. Next day. Okay. So, next day, we are still at ITEC this time. Only this time, we were also mainly talking about Green Window. It's a bit like ITEC, only it's a little bit different. So they are focused. So there's so take the equator line, okay? 23 degrees above and 23 degrees below the equator, and make a strip around the world. 2,200 people in the tribes area, not people, just tribe areas in that ring, okay? 2,200 tribes do not know God, do not know Jesus. So that's a lot. So there's roughly 16,500 or so tribes that don't know, total tribe groups in the world. Out of that, we've reached 9,000. And then we got 7,000 left, roughly. So, and 2,200 of that is in that just area, and it's really hard to get to. Like, it's in the middle of a forest, a jungle. So it's really hard to get to. So that's what they are mainly trying to focus on. It's called, the green window, it's just the green area, the jungle, the bush, and then, then it's the lines, the window of where they're focusing on and trying to help people. I'm not going to be putting a whole lot of information here, but, I'm going to be putting a lot of links in the description for you to check out that I really want you to check out yourself. So, in the description of this video, I'm going to put links for the book of End of the Spear. If you've never read it, it's a good book. You should really try it. Or just watch the movie. That will not be in any links. So, End of the Spear, read that book. Next website I'm going to take you to is ITEC. And you can learn a lot more about that. And the next is Green Window. So, I'll check all those out, and then that'll give you a lot more information. And definitely pray for these people. They really need help. So that is my message for tonight. One more day, which is Pioneers. We were going to go to Wycliffe, but we're going to change to Pioneers. So we got one more day. we're gonna do that, and that'll be, then tomorrow night, my last message for this video, and I will see you tomorrow. The last day. We are done with the teaching and everything. We're leaving tomorrow. Head back. You already saw that. So, today we went to Pioneers. And in a few seconds, I'm going to show you their presentation that they did there. But before I do that, I'm going to show you what they stand for. They have a ring, which is on screen now, and it's going to be going around, and the things that is on there is the things they are trying to work towards and stuff. Now, here is the presentation.
What I really like to say, though, is that we are in relentless pursuit of the unreached. We get that from the Apostle Paul in chapter 10 of Romans. He said, I have made it my ambition to preach Christ where he's not already known, so that I don't build on someone else's foundation. In his mindset, he was like, look, I want to go where people aren't already working. And that was what he was saying to the Romans. When he wrote the letter to the Romans, he hadn't actually visited Rome yet. And he was actually hoping that he could stop in Rome and then go on to, Syria, going over to Spain. His whole mentality was, I'm going where there's not already people. And that way we can keep spreading this thing, so that there's more and more people coming into the kingdom of God. And so we've kind of taken that and said, relentless pursuit of the unreached, of unreached people groups. But I know we've been talking about unreached. Does anyone feel confident to define the term unreached people groups that we've been talking about a little bit? How about this? Maybe, we got some, okay. They've never heard the name of Jesus. They've never heard the name of Jesus. Amen. Any other one?
They don't know what the Bible is.
They don't know what the Bible is? Okay.
They're pretty close to impossible to get to.
Pretty impossible to get to, or close to impossible to get to, or to be there. Amen. Those are some good ideas. That's a part of it. Amen. Any other ones?
Some of them are just like the people of the cultures, like the other day with ITEC, we were reading about some of the people that just within top of your head. And so there's kind of a fear about like enter the people group of fear.
Yeah.
So there's some more.
Yeah, they may be openly hostile to me. So it's like, well, I'm not going there. I'm going to try to reach the right. Is that what you're saying? Amen.
They just don't want to talk to people.
Yeah, they don't want to talk to people. They're not interested. Amen.
Maybe Christianity is illegal.
Yeah, maybe it's openly illegal. Or maybe it's like, if I became a Christian, I'm going to get kicked out of my family. That's common. That can't happen, but that does happen a lot. In some cultures. In Islam, Buddhists, Hindus. Because it's more than just, in a lot of other places, religion is more than just this thing I personally believe. It's a whole way of life. It's integrated into your ethnicity. Oh, you're an American, so you are a Christian. I am Indian, so I am Hindu. Some places they don't separate. So if you suddenly say, I'm a Christian, it's like saying, I'm not, like, to an Indian, they hear that as like, oh, you're not an American. Yeah, this family, I don't want you in my family anymore. And it gets complicated. Now here, I'm going to ask another question. What's the difference between someone being unreached and someone being considered lost? Who's heard that term before? To say someone's lost. It's kind of common. What's the difference between those two things? One can't find their way. Amen. Now I'm going to show, well, I'm kind of running out of time. So I was going to show you guys the video and talk about the difference.
If you run in Christian circles, you've probably heard people talk about the lost and the unreached. These are two common terms that Christians use to describe people who aren't followers of Jesus. But where do these terms come from? And what's the difference between the two of them? The term lost comes from a few references in the Bible. According to Unreached refers to lost people who will most likely never have the chance to hear that there is a way to be found. People groups are considered unreached when less than 2% of their population is following Jesus. They often have no access to the gospel within their culture or language, which means that they will never encounter the gospel unless something about their environment changes. There are still large numbers of people who have never heard, people who live far away and are hard to reach, or people who are born into societies where the message of Jesus is not. Followers of Jesus are still working hard to tell everyone that they can be found. But out of all the missionaries who are going and telling, less than 10% of them ever make it to the unreached people of the world. So what is the difference between being lost and being unreached? Well, in the word access. Everyone who hasn't trusted in Jesus is lost, but not every lost person is reached. Many lost people can pick up a Bible, walk into a church, ask a friend, search the internet, or even simply wrestle with the things that they've heard about Jesus. But unreached people either haven't heard anything about Jesus or don't have the access to material or people who can help answer their questions. It is a big task to bring the message of the gospel to the hardest to reach place. But as the Apostle Paul said, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then will they call on him in whom they do not believe? And how will they believe if they haven't heard? And how will they hear without someone preaching? And how will they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news.
Okay, so yeah, the difference between lost and unreached, and its shortest way is access. Someone who's lost, who doesn't know Jesus, they still have access. You still have friends and family who may be considered lost. But if they want to know, they can know. But unreached folks, unreached people groups can't know. And not only just is it an unreached person, it's an unreached people group. It's an entire ethnic, linguistic group of people. They have a shared ancestry, culture, just an entire group of people. Anytime you read the Bible, it says nations, tribes, tongues, even the word Gentile, really think people group. Gentile actually means genealogy. It's the same Greek word for genealogy. It means ethnic, it means my blood, it means who I am. So unreached people groups lack the followers of Christ and resources to evangelize their own people that's outside help. And here's the kicker. Today, more than 40% of the world's population, about 3.1 billion people, still have little to no access to the gospel message. So at least 1 in 3 people alive today are considered unreached. Just quickly, look around this room and count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. And every third person would, in a sense, be a different ethnic group that was unreached. They had little to no access to the gospel. That's the challenge that lies in front of us. Jesus said he's not coming back until every nation and tribe has heard the gospel. And yet, 1 in 3 people alive today has little to no access. More than 7,000 people groups remain unreached. And they look like they're tribal people groups, Hindus, unreligious, Muslim, Buddhist. Thumb, that's an easy way to remember. 5 major religious blocks. And so Pioneers is focused on sending missionaries to every single one of those people groups. We have 3,000 members internationally, 1,500 of which are Americans. The other 1,500 are internationals. So just a quick story. I was actually in Kyrgyzstan. Who's heard of Kyrgyzstan? Probably nobody. It's a small little Central Asian country. I just got to visit Kyrgyzstan and meet a missionary team there, a pioneer team. There was 2 American families. Then there was 2 Mongolian families, a single Brazilian woman, and then a Korean woman. More than just us, it's the whole world that's a part of it. Yeah. Could you repeat the problem again? Some tribal. Oh yeah, that's probably tribal, Hindu, unreligious, so atheist, or like agnostic. So think Japan. Japan's actually one of the largest unreached people groups in the entire world. Japanese. North Korea, So Native American tribes, they all kind of have their own ideology and philosophy. Think that when you were visiting ITEC, the Wadani people, they had their own like traditional tribal ideas about how the world worked. And so the idea is that as missionaries, we try to go into each of these religious, cultural groups, and we say contextualize the gospel. We try to, as you probably heard from ITEC and from, I don't know if you got to meet Steve Singh, but some of the folks there, they would talk about how the Wadani, when they accepted Jesus, they talked about it as there was someone who jumped over the snake for them. There was someone who was willing to face the challenge for them. But in Hinduism, it's similar. There's all these different religions and gods. I'm religious Muslim, Buddhist. We try to come in and address their questions about the gospel and what their needs are and see how the gospel meets with that. Everyone got them down? So like I was saying, this is the global church's responsibility. This is 3,000 members internationally, 1,500 American, 1,500 global, 500 people groups, 500 plus we're focused on. Roughly about 400 teams. This number changes a little bit as we add new ones, but also as some unfortunately fall apart. We're focused on 110 different countries and over 100 different languages. Now I'm going to pivot next to talk about how you can go and pioneer. But is there any questions before I move on? What's that? Yeah. Yeah.
Has your organization ever partnered with that?
I'm sure we have, honestly. Actually, do you know if Jason's around today? Well, I'm dragging him here for lunch. We know someone who works here in the office is like personal friends with Steve Singh, with ITEC guys, and like pretty much grew up in the same local area as them. So it's, on an organizational wide level, I'm not totally sure. I don't know if you know.
I know we knew of it, and his parents were in the country.
Usually what Pioneers does is what we had that core value of team focus. In this case, we're going to talk about it as insane teams. And that's a yes and a. Part of the other idea behind that is that we recognize, wait a second, us here in Orlando, we don't know the best way to reach the Wadani. I live here in Orlando. I don't know anything about the Wadani. I know a little bit because I read in the spirit, but I don't know anything really. So the missionaries that are there, we're going to let them make the decisions on how do we reach the Wadani people, or how do these people in Japan reach the Japanese. Basically, we let our teams on the field, as much as possible, as much as wise, structure, and stuff like that, make decisions on how they do things. So a lot of times, our teams may be partnering with organizations or like what we call seconded, like working formally with some different groups, and we recognize it. But it's more on like individual team level. Does that make sense? Cool. Sorry guys, I don't know what to say. Any other questions before I pivot? Okay. So what I want to briefly talk about before lunch is just 3 ways to go with Pioneer. Here's the goal, long term. That's kind of crazy one, right? Who hears me say, you should become a missionary, move your entire life overseas, and your first reaction is what? Me? What? I don't want to do that. I got to finish high school, like, I'm going to get married, a lot of that stuff on my plate. Amen. Amen to that. There's an urgency to this, but we also don't want to be hasty. God is way bigger than us. He's doing things that we can't even imagine and contemplate. We want to partner with him, and he wants to partner with us, but we need to do this wisely. And long term is part of the way that we wisely do it, but it is a big challenge. And so what we also do is we try to send people on what we call short-term to mid-term trips. We call it our EDGE program and our veteran program. Basically, the idea is let's just try this out. Is this really what God wants to do? Let's take one step at a time. Let's not commit. Let's just start walking the path. And if God wants you to walk that path, doors will keep opening. And if He doesn't, things won't work. So first of all, we have college students start with what we call the EDGE. It's 6, 8, 10 week summer trips. serve alongside our long-term church planting team. You go and join what the missionaries are doing. So you may get to go to Indonesia and do swimming with whale sharks. That was a real trip last year. Because then the team there does adventure tourism. That's their business. That's part of the way they're there. So you get to go in as a tourist and partner with them and like legitimate their business. As well as connect with friends that you just made friends with people in the community. Hang out, play soccer, go get coffee. And just get to try and share the gospel naturally that way. So each trip can look very different depending on what the long-term team does. That's kind of the idea. Then you come back and you have a short debrief here. And I'm going to give you a QR code later, so don't feel like you got to write anything down. Next is ventures. This is 1 month to 1 year. This is usually like if you graduate high school and you're like, you know what, man, I'm going to do a gap year. I want to take a couple months before I go to college, before I make some long-term decisions. Let me go do and experience something different. You can do that. Or you're in college and you want to teach English as a second language, TESOL. If you need like a very specific internship requirement, like you want to do it in a context where it's not just here in America. You want to go, say, go to Ethiopia and teach Somali refugees who have fled Somalia. That's a real thing. You can do that. It's a real trip that we have. So that's the idea. This one's a little bit more individualized. You go by yourself, and on the other hand, you go with a team of people. Like I said, Kobe, he went on an edge trip, and he went with 10 other folks who visited Turkey. But venture, you would go by yourself, and you would plug directly into the long-term team. We would work with you and figure some of those things out. Next, and last of all, long-term. Like I said, the goal here is to send people who are willing to go 2+ years, if not their lifetime. People who are willing to move their life, their family, their kids, leave things behind here, and go commit their life. The idea is how can we make disciples of all nations that we're not willing to go and be with the nation? How can Jesus say, I love you guys and I want to be with you, but I'm not going to that. I'm not going to lower myself and come down to your level. Same kind of mindset. If anything, even we might think we're lowering ourselves by going to the country. And the mindset is, let's go and actually partner this with God's doing there. And so that's kind of the question is, why not you? Maybe God's not calling you to go. I don't confirm that. Not everybody's going to go. About 1% of American Christians are actually going to become missionaries. The challenge here, as we're saying, is that already with the missionaries that do go out, only 10% of them are actually focused on unreached people groups. We send a couple million people a year, not as pioneers, but just as a U.S. church. And only 10% are focused on unreached. So we got to keep resounding this call. Why isn't it us? Why isn't it you? Who's going to go? Because that was Paul's ambition. So why isn't your ambition? Not to shame you, but more as in, why isn't God calling you? So if you want to know more, go ahead and scan this QR code, and then you can set up a time to talk to Ms. Kim or Ms. Rosemary or someone else on our team. Okay, they didn't say this about themselves because they're pretty shy and they're pretty humble. But both of these folks over here, Ms. Kim and Ms. Rosemary, are both missionaries. They served on the field. They know what it's like. They want to talk to you and share with you their life experience. Most of the folks on our mission mentor team, as we call it, have missions experience and want to help you discern, is this really what God's calling you to, or should I wait until a second and figure some other things out? And that's the idea. Scan the QR code, you fill out this little 2-minute form, and then you can schedule time right away to talk to somebody. Now you're here so you can talk with us, but that's the idea. If you feel like you're not ready to go, anybody still get the QR code? If you're not ready to go, amen, I understand. You can also scan this QR code and you can learn about some of our other resources. We have this thing called Pursuit Groups. Missionary on the field hosts like a Zoom discussion. They talk about what they do, they talk about their life, what it's like. They go through some podcasts and we listen to some stuff together and we read some articles together. It's cool. It's really cool. I really appreciate it. If you're like, hey, look, man, I'm more into marketing and like doing YouTube channel stuff. Oh no, this guy. If you want to do stuff like that, why not become an intern with our marketing team? is you can serve the Great Commission, you can serve in what God's doing around the globe, and not necessarily be a missionary. There's about 5 other ways to participate. So go look at something like the Orlando internship, or go listen to our podcast. Just keep learning, keep praying, keep sending, keep mobilizing other folks. If you don't feel like you're ready to go. So like I said, go learn about pursuit groups. If you want to learn more about it, scan the QR code. Go check it out. If you are interested in our Orlando internships, you can scan that. These are some of our real interns. Actually, we still haven't met this DJ, but she was one of our
She's
interns.
picking up, lunch.
Picking up Chick-fil-A right now. But she did the internship that she's listening. Or if you want to start listening to our podcast, the Let's Pursue podcast, you can go through questions like, how do I know that I'm actually called to missions? What if I do go through something dramatic? What if I suffer? Where should I go? There's like 7,000 other people. It's a big question.
They're really good.
It is really good.
Interviewing actually missionaries.
Yeah.
They're excellent.
And then, last, if you wanted to look up this podcast called Maverick, we partnered with a different group to make this. This is our real church planting movement that happened inside of Central Africa. I can't even say no more for security reasons. But this is a real quote. If you would have told me 2 years ago this is where I would be, never would have believed it. Even with all this began, I did not know who God. It's intense. It's crazy. But it was a real story. So before lunch, what's the lunch case here? Well, great. But while we're waiting on lunch, is there any other questions about?
There it was. Okay, so that was that's all I got for the video. Please pray for them. They need a lot of help. And let me know about what you're thinking. And yeah, so please pray for ITEC, Green Window, Pioneers, everybody. Check out those QR codes. And I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something. I'll see you in another video.